Present. As I ask you to rise, I will ask you to remain standing after we do the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing. Ask for a moment of silence for two of Madison's dedicated staff over the years, lost in the past week. Peter McLaughlin, retired foreman of the Madison Parks Department, passed away this past Sunday at the age of 74. He was in the Parks Department for 37 years, so gave half of his life to the Borough of Madison. And visitations for those that want to show their respects tomorrow at Madison Memorial Home from 2 to 4 and to 7 to 9. With a service on Wednesday at 10 a.m. And also someone that many people in this town know and remember very well, Lieutenant Anthony DiVincenzo, more commonly known as Zeke. 35 years serving Madison Borough from 1972 until he retired in 2007. Lost his battle with cancer. Zeke was the county detective of the year in 1986 as he solved the crime. Happened to take place on Zeke Road, no relation in Denville. But I think anyone that knows and remembers Zeke, I think his favorite role was that at the corner of Waverly Place and Main Street, because he loved dealing face-to-face with the residents of Madison. We will truly miss Zeke. And Peter McLaughlin, please, a moment of silence for both. Thank you. Well, we have no minutes for approval tonight because we had a little short week and a half in between meetings. So welcome everyone again. I apologize for being a bit late today. We had a shorter time frame for our executive meeting and didn't quite get everything in there, and then some minor technical difficulties. And yes, I know it's a World Series night, so I apologize for being a little late. A couple of things I want to announce, and before I come down. One, this past weekend, I think there was a big celebration in town on Myrtle Avenue. So happy 50th anniversary to Carmel and Sal Vitale. Congratulations. And you've seen it before right against the wall there, for Drew students here. Saif Yassin and Kara Anand are part of the civic engagement program at Drew, and they've been observing council meetings, learning what it's all about to be involved in the local government, and also doing some volunteer services as they help us out. So they've helped out with the Bottle Hill Day and also the Art Gala. So thank you very much and welcome to our council meeting. And somewhat related to that, I got to put on my professor's hat and was at Drew University this last week and spoke to their political science class and talked about what it's like to be a local mayor and how I ended up where I was and all sorts of things. So it was a very fun class to do, and I gave them lots of homework. And library report, Madison Library will feature a Food for Fines program, a great way to take care of your fines for your overdue books and help those hungry this time of year as we go into Thanksgiving. So from November 3rd to 17th, if you bring in non-perishable food items, for every item you bring in, you'll get a $1 reduction in your fines, up to $25. So you can help a good cause. I will be telling my wife this because I think she's got a few fines, so we can help feed the hunger and take care of your fines at the same time. Also going to the library, parents and caregivers of young children are invited to the nursery school fair scheduled for Tuesday, November 12th. Opportunity to learn about Madison area nursery schools. Stop by between 7 and 8 p.m. and gather information and meet with representatives.
And Madison Library cardholders are reminded that the Museum Pass program, which is funded by the Friends of the Library, is always available. So not only being able to check out a book, you can check out a pass to area museums such as the Frick Collection, the Intrepid, McCulloch Hall, and Morris Museum. So take advantage of that. And then this fall, they are launching an e-newsletter, thanks to cooperative efforts of the library staff and the Friends. It includes up-to-date announcements of library programs and services, so make sure the library has your email address so you can keep on top of that. And in November, Friends of the Library will be mailing the annual appeal letter to Madison households, and the Friends provide very important support to the library's collection and programming, so please be generous with your support. It's another way that we can extend our tax dollars through donations and provide one of the best libraries we have in the county, if not the state. So let me come on down and a couple of proclamations. Is Dennis Salco in the audience? Come on up, Dennis. Dennis, you're a member of the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network. So we have a proclamation here today declaring November as Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month. Whereas in 2013, estimated 45,000 people will be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in the United States. 38,000 will die from the disease. Pancreatic cancer is one of the deadliest cancers, the fourth leading cause of cancer deaths in the United States. It's the only major cancer with a 5-year relative survival rate in the single digits at just 6%. And whereas symptoms of pancreatic cancer present themselves in the late stage, and 73% of pancreatic cancer patients die within the first year, while 94% pancreatic cancers die within the first 5 years of being diagnosed. And there will be 1,100 deaths in New Jersey this year from pancreatic cancer. Whereas the incidence of death rate for pancreatic cancer are increasing, and pancreatic cancer is anticipated to move from the fourth to second leading cause of cancer death in the United States by the year 2020. Whereas the United States Congress passed the Recalcitrant Cancer Research Act last year, calls for a National Cancer Institute to develop scientific frameworks and strategic plans for pancreatic cancer and other deadly cancers, which will help provide a strategic direction, guidance needed to make true progress against these diseases. And whereas the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network is a national organization serving the pancreatic cancer community in Borough, Madison, nationwide through a comprehensive approach that includes public policy, research funding, patient services, and public awareness, education related to developing effective treatments and a cure for pancreatic cancer. And whereas the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network and affiliates in the Borough of Madison support those patients who currently are battling pancreatic cancer, as well as those who have lost their lives. And whereas the good and well-being of the residents of the Borough are enhanced by this direct result of increased awareness about pancreatic cancer and research into early detection, causes, and effective treatments. Now, therefore, I, Robert H. Conley, the mayor of the Borough of Madison, on behalf of the governing body, proclaim the month of November 2013 as Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month in the Borough of Madison. And I appreciate all the work you're doing on the behalf of this. Would you like to say a few words? Can I? Yes, you may.
Mayor, council, distinguished guests, on behalf of the Northern New Jersey affiliate of the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network, I'd like to thank you for your important contribution to this national fight against pancreatic cancer. I lost my wife 6 years ago to pancreatic cancer, and my grandfather almost 50. I joined this group to help in this cause, to find a cure. I thank you again for supporting our cause and helping raise awareness against pancreatic cancer. We hope that you will all support our event. We're having a walk and run Sunday, November 10th at the Matt Cowie Center in Parsippany. More information can be on our website, pancan.org or purplestride.org. Thank you again.
Thank you for all you're doing on behalf of the band. And we have Caitlin Bumgartner in the audience. And I think Caitlin has a little guest with her, too. Carmela, would you like to come up and join me here, please?
Well, hello, Joe.
So Carmela nominated Caitlin, and I think it's, as I looked at what she has done, it's certainly deserving of a proclamation. Whereas 4-H is nation's largest youth development organization with hands-on learning programs, and whereas Caitlin Bumgartner joined 4-H in its four-footed Leaders Seeing Eye Puppy Raisers Club when she was 9 years old, and she has competed 8 dogs. Yeah, would you like to say something in the microphone? Whereas named as the Morris County's 2012 4-H'er of the Year for her leadership, community service, and participation in 3 4-H clubs, and whereas Caitlin has also volunteered at OMK, Operation Military Kids Camp, and 4-H Teen Conference, which she co-chaired last year, and whereas every year, sorry, would you like to say something? Whereas participates in the Morris County 4-H Fair by working the booths, the chicken barbecue, and entering many events, including the Seeing Eye Dog Show and Quiz Bowl. And whereas, I'm almost to the end, and whereas Morris County's 4-H Fair July 18th, whereas Caitlin and her Seeing Eye dog Yogi competed in the Seeing Eye Dog Show and earned Best in Show for their teamwork. Now, therefore, I, Robert H. Conley, the Mayor of Borough of Madison, on behalf of the governing body and dogs everywhere, do hereby extend congratulations to Caitlin Bumgartner for winning this award for dedication and commitment to 4-H. Caitlin, thank you. So before I sit down, I just want to say a few words. I think everyone in this room probably remembers what they were doing a year ago tonight at this time. It was a Sunday night. The shopping was probably done. Dinner was finished. We were just beginning to listen to the wind, beginning to pick up outside. And at that time, we didn't know all this preparation, whether we were just getting ready for another overhyped storm, or whether it was. And little did we in for the next 36 hours and the weeks afterward. So just, as Madison put so well, it was the best of weeks and the worst of weeks for Madison a year ago, and for most of this state and area. But truly, for Madison, it was one of the best of the weeks. And so I just want to share some for one, a thank you for Bob for all your effort on behalf of the recovery from planning to the 2 weeks of intense recovery time to the applying for funds from FEMA so we could reimburse for our expenses. I did make a call last week and said, for old time's sake, you want to spend the next 2 weeks together? And he said, I think I'll pass on this one, We kind of Darren Datchison was acting chief. He was just pretty much fresh to the role at that point. Chief Lou DeRosa, and the Madison Police Department and the Fire Department for their effort through those weeks and keeping everyone safe. The auxiliary volunteer firemen for all their endless hours of volunteer work. Of course, the Madison Ambulance Corps, opening up their building as a shelter, responding to 911 calls, getting out to their. The health department ran a shelter. Lisa Goulart, fresh on the job, just getting to know Madison, thrown into the leadership of the recovery from Sandy. And of course, we learned once again the value of owning our own company and investing in our infrastructure. Having power back on within 48 hours in downtown Madison under the leadership of Mike Piano and Jim Bettina. We can't forget the line crews from Delaware, Louisiana that came up to help out. JCP&L, who, was a little rough after the winter storm 2 years ago that hit us over Halloween. We want to thank them for everything they did. The Department of Public Works, our electric crew could get in there. People could get to their homes. The Emergency Management Center, the phone banks, all the volunteers that manned it. That was a proud moment for Madison, especially the Boardman mother-daughter team. I don't know how many endless hours they put in there. Answering the phone, keeping a smile, and keeping us entertained. Of course, the leadership of Ray, Cody, and Jim Burnett helping us through, getting fuel we would run out as our crews out there. And remember, as we look back a year, what the Madison residents did. Opening their homes, if they had power, they opened them up to their neighbors. Sharing their generators after their power is restored. I talk about one of my favorite sites in Madison as I drove, and there going through a mail slot extension cord, went across the street, went to the mail slot across, in the house across the way. Sharing our power. Looking at what we've made in years, there are still a long way to recovery, but the Madison residents have stepped up, sending children to camp, sending supplies to schools, or Russ Brown going down there to help with building code issues, helping out. It was a rough time a year ago. It was a proud time, and I think we should all be very happy and proud that we live in such a great community called Madison. So, thank you. And reports from committees. Health, Ms. Vitale.
Thank you, Mayor. It's still flu season, so flu shots are still available at the health department. The public health nurses down there would be very happy to take care of you. So just make an appointment and be safe for the rest of the year. Also, the same reminder about the preschool children. Please make sure that they have their flu shots because they will not be able to go to school next year. There will be an adult health screening. All adults are advised to know their cholesterol numbers. As obesity and overweight have increased to an estimated 60% of the population in the U.S., cholesterol has also risen to dangerous levels. A cholesterol reading of under 200 is recommended, but the levels of HDL and LDL components of cholesterol are also of major importance for good health heart. Dietary fats, fiber, and exercise can all affect cholesterol levels. So men and women are encouraged to check into their heart health at the adult health screening on Wednesday, December 4th at 8 a.m. The screening includes CMP, blood pressure checks, information on cholesterol and diet, fitness, and preventing osteoporosis. The CMP analysis includes total cholesterol, HDL and LDL, cholesterol and CBC and other blood components. So this is a great time for you to get real healthy for the week, for the holidays. So you need to register and you need to make an appointment. And it starts on weekdays starting November the 7th is when registration is open. Residents are charged a non-refundable fee of $25 for the blood test payable within the registration period. Participants should have their physician's name, address, and telephone ready when they are called. Just real fast, don't forget that we're having rabies clinic, and those are a free clinic that is offered by the health department, and that'll be in December. And at the rate we're going, it's coming up real fast. And there still is plenty of vaccine for, through the New Jersey Vaccine for Adults program. So if you're interested, if you're uninsured or underinsured, you can receive those vaccines, and you just make an appointment with the health department. That's all, Mayor.
Thank you. Public Works and Engineering, Mr. Catanello.
Thank you, Mayor. Leaf pickup began today for our borough. We have free leaf bags available at the borough garage, and again, bagging leaves is the preferred method for collection. The sports fields parking lot at the former Bailey Ellard property is underway by Tilcon New York General Contractors. The parking lot final paving, striping, hydro seeding, and planting is complete. Fencing installation is scheduled for this week, and Ray, I believe the signage is all up as well, reflecting one way. Not yet. Okay, that's due. That's due before the end of the week. It's going to be a one-way in front. It's going to be the exit will be one way out. The project remains on budget and ahead of schedule. Tilcon New York also completed final paving and striping of the parking lot at the Madison Recreation Center last week under a separate authorization based on the county cooperative pre-bid contracts. Green Avenue reconstruction work is underway by Cifelli & Sons General Contractors. Curb and sidewalk improvements will continue this week. The project is proceeding on budget and schedule. The Hartley Dodge boiler replacement is underway by the Omega Service General Contractors. The contractor states the project will be complete by the end of this week, although significant work remains to be completed. The 2013 water main replacement is near completion by Garcia Construction General Contractors. Project requires a settlement of claims prior to the completion of the contract. That's it for me. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Community Affairs, Mr. Landrigan.
Sure, it'll be very brief. We recently had the auction of the pieces of art that were around town. It was very, very successful. A lot of money was raised for both MAC and the DDC and the artists. The hope is that next year we'll be able to attract more artists and have another very successful auction. And then finally, we celebrated Halloween this past week. It was a big success. And that's it. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Public Safety, Ms. Bailey.
Thank you. I have a report from the Madison Fire Department. Madison Fire Department was recently selected as the best of the best, a fire department by the readers of the Morris County Daily Record. And we want to thank everyone who voted for our fire department, because they are the best of the best. And Madison firefighters, as well as many neighboring fire and EMS departments, participated in the Morristown Airport's biannual disaster drill. Madison Fire Department is the designated rescue company for all second alarm incidents at the airport. And that's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Finance and Borough Clerk, Mr. Wolkowitz.
Thank you, Mayor. From the clerk's office, we'd like to remind you that this coming November 5th, Tuesday, is Election Day. This is a general election. All Madison polling locations will be open from 6 a.m. until 8 p.m. No change in location. So the place you've gone to before is the place to go to on Tuesday. If you are a registered voter and you're unable to get to the polls on Tuesday, you are able to vote in person at the county clerk's office up until 3 p.m. the day before the election, i.e. Monday the 4th. If you have any questions, including, I suppose, if you want to go to the county clerk where they're located, which I realize I don't have one here, but please call our borough clerk's office, and they can provide you with any and all information you may need. On the financial side, I'd like to begin with something that actually Councilman Landrigan should have told you, which is the first FEMA check has arrived. It's celebrate the anniversary in another way. And so far we've been paid $146,000, which is a reasonable down payment on what we expect to be significantly more than that. As an FYI, labor negotiations with all the unions in the borough will begin shortly. Contracts are ending at the end of this calendar year, so stay tuned and we'll report to you how they're going. We have a rather curious issue to talk about with JCP&L, who we said good things about. I guess I get to do the other side. Madison has two trunk lines. from JCP&L. We can actually receive all the power we need with just one. One of those trunk lines went down in the latter part of August. And shortly, I believe it was shortly after, the meter attached to that line went down. The line came back up, the meter did not. And JCP&L has, through some formula that only they understand, has come up with a charge for us for electricity. We will be discussing that with them. So if you hear anything about an issue between Madison and JCP&L, that is it. I'm not sure, but the meter may still be broken.
It's not repaired as of today.
It was repaired as of today. Okay. Late breaking news. That's good to hear. And then finally, a couple of you have asked me, and indeed the Madison Athletic Foundation is scheduled to present at our next meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Utilities, Mr. Rebholz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Water Department's been busy flushing the mains on Main Street, Park, Waverly, Prospect, and Lincoln, as well as the fire lines at Stop and Shop and Jaeger. They also repaired a main in Center Street, main line on Center Street this week. And they're busy taking samples, water samples for the state required test. The electric department's been busy installing and replacing poles, I guess you call them power poles, Hillcrest, Highview, Oxford, Centerbury, and Greenwood. Been busy installing poles this week. They've contacted an engineering firm to analyze transformers in the area, and they're going around sampling oils from the transformer, and then they'll run their test, and we'll hear about that in a few weeks. And then finally, they installed new flagpole lights and are in the process of installing monument lights for Don Links at the MRC site.
Thank you. Any communications and petitions?
Yes, Mayor. The council received an email dated October 20th from Marilyn Maslewski of Academy Road regarding the paving of Academy Road, and a letter received today actually from Jim Damiano of Cook Avenue regarding neighbors' trash cans.
Thank you. And now this is the first of two invitations for discussion from the public. This is the one that's limited to only items on our agenda discussions and also resolutions that are listed. And the items for agenda discussion tonight are a strategic planning process. A week and a half ago, we saw the presentation. Tonight we'll have a discussion on that. Item number 2 on the discussion agenda is renewing an agreement for 911 emergency medical telephone call screening. And the last item is Veterans Plaque at the Madison Recreation Complex. And then also you may comment on any of the resolutions that are listed. So with those limitations, and maybe we'll, if you step up there, we'll cover the projectors so you're not getting blinded by the light. Step up there, state your name, your address, and either the agenda topic you're talking about or the resolution number that you want to talk about. So please, anyone wishing to comment, please step forward. Seeing none, I close this part of the meeting and we move on to strategic planning process.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I very quickly, because of the lateness of the last meeting, went through this presentation at a rapid clip. I don't intend to go through it again. Rather, I'd just like to highlight a couple of key points that I want to make sure everyone understands, and indeed if there's any suggestions, concerns, etc., this would be the opportunity to voice them and presumably resolve them. One thing that has come up is an issue of timing. And although we spoke of an interim report from each of the 4 strategic planning committees that have been identified to be done by May, and a completion of the project in each case a year from the initiation date, we didn't talk about how this is going to get started. The assumption is that between now and the end of the year, which is a bit tight, we'll go about identifying the members of each of these strategic planning groups. A couple of people have approached me and either suggested friends of theirs, people they know, neighbors, or themselves, always appreciated, because we obviously need particular skill sets, and I'm not aware of everyone in this borough who has these particular skills. So please, by all means. The process then will be to identify these people between now and year end, and then as part of the swearing in process at the beginning of next year, we'll include the members of each of these strategic planning committees. So with that, let me go through this and see if there are any particular questions, and of course I can't get it to work.
Just hit the space bar.
The one on the side?
All right, so just maybe safe can, there we go.
Ah, thank you.
We'll do the old-fashioned remote control here.
Thanks, I got it now. Let's see.
One of our Drew volunteer on the job.
That was brilliant. Okay. So we identified 4 areas as being the areas to begin this process. And I want to emphasize again that if this works, this should not be the only time we do it. It should be an ongoing process. So if you think there's a 5th and there's an issue of capacity, it may well be that next time when we do this again, we would include 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. I also want to emphasize yet again that there are strategic planning initiatives going on in various parts of the borough. They will in no sense be interfered with by this process. So the library will continue to do what they're doing, and MRC will continue to do what they're doing, etc. All right, I have no batteries.
Yep.
I don't know what this, thank you. These are the 4 key areas. We've had a lot of discussion about capital and how we allocate capital. This is obviously a concern to all of us who ride on our streets, have dealt with water main bursts, etc. And although we have a plan on how we're going to allocate capital in the future, we need the other part of that, i.e. where we're getting the capital from, and we also, I think, need to review our allocation procedures. Let me also emphasize that I'm throwing out suggestions. These are not carved in stone. So if the committees meet and conclude that some of these things are good and some are not, I don't have a great pride of authorship. They go out and do what they think is appropriate for the borough. Fiscal management is the budgeting process, and as I've mentioned before, the objective here would be to make as much of that process objective as possible. We've already made some important steps in that, taken some important steps in that direction. We're using ratios that S&P uses to determine how we're doing in various important characteristics of our budget. I think also we could get to a point where increasingly more of the budget would be in some sense rote, and that's not a bad thing. In other words, we have a budget of a particular size, we know how we want to allocate it, we understand what it does to these various ratios, and we move on. And it's because otherwise we get into discussions and it's all just opinion. And although opinion is meaningful, it's always nice to have data. So this is an effort to fill in those gaps. The electric utility, which we've obviously talked about this evening, is going to change in some ways because power will be less expensive, so therefore their surplus will increase. There is talk of other ways that we can generate and acquire power, and those discussions have been going on in various and different ways. So this would be a place to focus in much more carefully on those issues and attempt to resolve them in ways that are to the benefit of the borough. And then finally, business operations is in a sense a euphemism for customer satisfaction, where you're the customers and this entity is the provider of the service. And although, as I mentioned last time, there's no question but that an interest and a more of a feeling of servicing the customers is evident in this building, and I hope evident when you speak to us, we can always stand improving. And the only way we're going to know how to improve is to talk to the people who deal with the borough regularly. So that, in a nutshell, is it.
Actually, just going back a second, because confirmation on those 4, to get a little confirmation on the 4 key areas.
Sure.
I guess, or we don't have to go back if you don't want.
No, I'm not. Don't bother.
So we had the area of capital, we had financial management slash budgeting, we had electric utility, and then business operations. Is that the areas we want to concentrate in? Are there other areas, or I'm seeing that's okay? All right. See, you knew what to do. We're ready to move on.
Can I just,
don't bother,
can I
because I'm not gonna go
just
through
make
all the
one
objectives.
suggestion? We just have electric utility here. I mean, I think the water utility is probably something that, you know, needs to be looked at in a separate way, because if we need more water towers or whatever, that becomes part of, like, how are we going to pay for that?
Yeah, it was on the list and then off the list, and in discussions, we
Yeah.
came up with reasons why to include it and why not. I'm perfectly fine with including it at this point and seeing how the committee responds.
Okay.
If they feel that there's enough complementarity to cover both, or are there unique features where they want to focus on one?
That's okay. So we'll add water utility, and I think it does make sense because depending on the committee members, they may decide, okay, this one committee really needs to concentrate on it because the skill level, it's going to be electric, and you know, we can spin off the water.
Okay.
Yep, sounds.
That's really the important part. I mean, to go through all the objectives.
Yeah, we don't need, because
As I said, I mean, they're in a sense fillers, in that these are the things that I felt were important and the reasons that I felt these various groups should get started. But if the groups themselves have a different agenda, I'm fine, as long as at the end of the day we accomplish some basic objectives.
Rob?
What do you anticipate the role of our employed borough staff to be in this process? We're fortunate to have,
Absolutely.
two borough administrators, and a CFO, an engineer. Yeah. How will they fit in?
My expectation, and again, I leave this to the committees, but my expectation and the advice I'd give them is to look upon those people as a resource, to include them in discussions at the times that they feel are appropriate. I mean, this is the expertise we have in-house. In much the same way I've indicated that we ought to use this executive committee we have, where we talk to business people in the borough and ask that if we can rely on some of their staff to help us out. In all fairness to borough employees, I'm not sure they'd want to go to regular meetings, but if indeed the chairman feels that these people should be on the committee and they're agreeable, there's no reason why they shouldn't.
Any other thoughts or questions, Austria?
I guess it's a follow-up question too, and the relationship with the council members to the committee and the selection of the committee members. And we may have a lot of very smart people in the community who are willing to help. They also need to know the municipal process too. I mean, that's important.
Yeah, I would envision, whether it's through the liaison assignments next year or one process or another, that there's at least one council member on each of these groups. Probably to make sure that all council members are involved, since we have 4 groups, that maybe a couple of them we double up, so we would have the council involved.
Yeah, I think that's important, to have elected representation on the strategic committees.
Yeah, in fact, this, as we know, these committees can't replace what the council is responsible for. So they are actually they're doing a lot of homework for the council, but it's going to fall on the council to implement this or decide, or say, no, thank you for your work, but yeah, that's not the direction we want to go. I don't think that's why we need to have that council representation as we go through, is so we don't end up in that process, that we have a lot of good work and it was the wrong direction.
Was there any consideration, it seems like a lot we're talking about focused in the borough operation. What about the community, the business community? Was that considered to be part of the process? How do we encourage businesses or address their needs? Was that ever part of that?
Certainly that issue has come up in a number of discussions, but it hasn't come up in the context of strategic planning. So the short answer is no.
Yeah, and that's something, maybe the Downtown Development Commission can take that, as we have some committees that during their own planning, the DDC could go through a planning process more involved. That is their responsibility is
I think
business
that,
development.
strategic planning is important, and it's just wonder who is doing that around that.
Yeah.
And maybe what I hear is those committees are going to do those things.
Other thoughts or? All right, so next steps, reconfirm that we'll be collecting the names of
Yes.
potential volunteers, spread the word, send the names to Ben for now, or certainly share it with your friendly council member or friendly mayor, and we will put the committees together, and they'll be presented on New Year's Day. And we'll turn off the projector so Robert doesn't have to hold the paper out to.
I just want to second that. I mean, I would hate to see us put together a committee and discover that there's someone with just profound expertise who was omitted because we were unaware of that person's existence. On the other side, if we get inundated with names, we'll talk to those people who are selected and those who aren't, because people stand up and volunteer. If it turns out we just have too many, we need to hear that, and we'll figure out a way to include them in the process, if not in the committee directly. I would consider that a high-class problem if we have too many names.
Yep. All right, thank you. Well done, thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
All right. Renew agreement for 911 emergency medical telephone call screening. Ray?
Yes, this is a request by the police department to enter into a 2-year agreement with a company called Monarch, which is a hospital-affiliated entity that provides, in the event of a medical emergency and someone calls the dispatch desk, we immediately switch over to this service. They give pre-arrival instructions and stay on the phone with the person calling in with the medical emergency until help arrives at the home. And it's a budgeted item. The second year of the contract will be contingent on the funding in the 2014 and 2015 budget for the second year. And the police department says this is a reliable vendor and has served us well for a number of years.
All right, any questions or? All right. So that is resolution 294. Moving on to our Veterans Plaque, Madison Recreation Complex. Bob?
Sure. As you all know, out at the MRC, there's a set of flagpoles, and we recently put a plaque in remembrance of Don Links, who was instrumental in getting that built. Prior to Don Links' passing, a plaque had been put together to honor the veterans and emergency services workers in the borough, and that will now be installed just to the right of the Don Links plaque. The intent is to use the same landscaper who set up the Don Links one. And I actually have the transcript of the plaque here. Just give me a minute, I'll read it. This flag memorial is dedicated to all Madison veterans, public police officers, firefighters, EMTs, whose passion was coaching and mentoring the youth of the Rose City. The Madison Florham Park American Legion Post number 43, Madison PBA Local 92, Madison Fire Department, Madison FMBA, Madison Volunteer Ambulance Corps, Stuart Morris, and Joe Caruso. And it says it was funded by those listed above, built by the borough employees of Madison. The intent is to have this done by Veterans Day, and we'll have a ceremony at that site to honor the veterans and all the emergency service workers.
Any questions or comments? Okay, that's resolution 298, which is on the consent agenda. So the ordinances that were introduced at our last meeting will have a hearing at our November 13th meeting. So we have no ordinances for hearing tonight. And now we are on to invitation for discussion number 2, which is now you may comment on any topic relevant to the borough. Again, step up to the lectern, state your name, your address, and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. With that, anyone wishing to be heard?
Lauren Cantor, 11 County Road. And we're just here to follow up a couple of our neighbors had left because it's getting a little late. But we were just coming again to show our determination and our seriousness about this issue. And I'm not exactly sure why we're not on the agenda tonight, but as you explained, it's a budgetary issue that will be addressed at a later time. But I think people are just feeling like we're, out in left field somewhere, and we don't know what's happening. We don't know if we're being, seriously considered. Are we going to be on some agenda? Or if you could just address that for us,
Yep.
that would be very helpful.
If any other comments, then I'll answer that question, or is that, okay. As the budget process for capital projects, as we talked at last meeting, it was proposed by Mr. Catanello that the funding from sale of property go towards the Academy Road and Vinton Road reconstruction. We talked about the importance of making sure so we don't have a repeat of what Academy Road went through 6 years ago in 2007 and multiple times.
And then again.
And again, yeah. So that we roll out the full project so that not only Academy knows what's going on, but people on Durwood, which is another road, people on Belmont. So we will have a full capital project list for 2014, which is that discussion happens the first quarter of 2014. In the meantime, we will make sure that any discussions, any information as far as the priorities, what the engineering department may put out, we can share with you. So if you haven't shared your email address, and if you want to be the spokesperson, please make sure we get your email, and you can be the one to relay the message to the neighbors. But we did hear you loud and clear. I think probably virtually every council member has.
I don't think we're giving I mean, we have a whole group here again, not everyone comes in, but it really is, it's a liability, and it's dangerous, and people are, and one thing that I didn't state last time, when they had the fireworks at Drew, I had friends come in from Maryland, and we were walking to Drew, and the streets are pretty dark at night, and one of my friends did trip. Now, she didn't get hurt, but she twisted her ankle because the streets are so, with the paving, the little pavers that they've done, and the curb issues, it's just, someone's going to get really hurt, and that's more than aesthetically what our concerns are, so.
No, we truly appreciate it.
So when should we be back?
We've got 3 more meetings between now and the end of the year, so you're welcome to come on back. But again, it will be part of the 2014 budget process. And it is your role to make sure, whether it's this council, any future council, hears you loud and clearly. It's the role of the council here to balance all the needs of the entire borough.
We almost brought you pieces of our curb today.
Oh, okay, yeah. We appreciate that too. Yeah.
We'll be bringing in pieces.
Yeah. But thank you, and we understand, yes. Anyone else wishing to be heard? Don?
Don Brunner, 20 Remington Drive. I see the resolution on the library. I just wondered, has the Borough Council considered reopening the library from 6 to 9 on Thursday nights? I know the mayor, I think, is liaison to the Library Board of Trustees.
That would actually be a decision by the Library Board of Trustees. It has not been discussed recently. Obviously, they have to deliver services within a fairly tight budget, and so those are the decisions they make, and they review the hours on a regular basis. So the answer is not right now, but if it deems a priority, they would shift the hours. Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to be heard? Mary Beth?
Mary Beth Forte, 7 Academy Road. I will be brief, but just to reinforce my neighbor's comments, the status of our street is of utmost importance to us. We've kind of been quiet, waiting, and I'm a new resident, but when we bought our house, we were told, oh, they're going to pave the street. They told us when we bought it that they're going to pave the street. So we just don't want you to forget about us again. So we're just going to keep coming and reminding you, please put us back in our priority spot on the capital project. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to be heard?
Kevin Kilgore from 8 Academy Road. So as you work your way up from here, up Green Village, if I get this right, Stafford, Vinton, Wilmer, Academy, Woodcliff. Only one of those not paved. So it's not clear to us why it's not been paved. Maybe we have too few residents. Maybe we don't have important people living on our street. We saw the Ryans here last week, 2 weeks ago. Mr. Ryan said it's a disgrace. Now, he's lived there for 37 years, and it's been paved once in all of those years. So I hope that you'll embrace our requests in your 2014 planning. I hope it gets done in 2014. It'll be a treat to all of us, and especially to the Ryans. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think Ryan's 50 years plus actually.
There you go.
So, yeah.
Thank you. Let the record state that, please.
Yeah, yes. Anyone else wishing to be heard? Sam?
Sam Cerciolo, Park Avenue, Madison. Just a couple things, Mayor, because we got the World Series. We got to get to that good game. How's a lot of people are talking about out in front of Whole Foods? What is that going to take place soon? Because it's getting colder and colder. Where are we at with that? I know you said we allocated what, $40,000 or so.
Yep. And do we have a?
We don't have a vendor. We're trying to get Tilcon to do it, and the county co-op vendors are not qualified to do it because there's a 9-inch depth they have to go to. So we're trying to get one of the large companies that you always advocate for, but right now we're competing with their other larger contracts, so it's difficult to get anyone's attention to do it.
So we might have to go through the winter with that.
We may have to go through the winter.
Did all the council people and mayors see what I'm talking about in front with the entranceway? That's bad shape. It's getting worse and worse.
Yep.
The farmers market's all over. And, I talk to a lot of people, and they're just hoping that next year you would consider moving it from Green Village Road because it jams that whole town. I talk to cops, I talk to a lot of people. Not only, it's supposed to be from 1 to 5. You go there at 11:30, they're already setting up. And people, got a half hour for lunch or something, and they get jammed all the way up to Drew. I'm telling you. I don't know if you guys go see this once in a while, but it's a bad situation. And then, like I said, they don't break down. You go by there 6:30, they still got the barricades up. So you're talking about from 11:30 to 6:30. So all we're saying is that a lot of people wish next year, you keep it in town, maybe go on Lincoln Place or something, but that Green Village Road, it just jams the whole town up. Last meeting, I talked about I really strongly believe that, we got to maybe save some money on overhead and all that. I talked about maybe the Board of Ed and the Borough coming next door, the Board of Ed coming next door. Have you talked about that suggestion? I think it's a great...
The Shared Services Committee has not met since you last spoke, but we certainly will deliver that again and remind them that the space is available and the offer's on the table.
It's a winner.
Yep.
And I can tell you 40 ways we could save a lot of money. We don't need a superintendent of public works at Board of Ed and a super public with an assistant. We got too many superintendents and too many assistants. Got a lot of it's a good idea. Overhead is the key when you want to save money. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to be heard? Seeing none, I close this part of the meeting. And we have no ordinances to introduce, so on to consent agenda resolutions.
Consent agenda resolutions will be enacted with a single motion. Any resolution requiring expenditure is supported by a certification of availability of funds. Any resolution requiring discussion will be removed from the consent agenda. All resolutions will be reflected in full in the minutes.
Mayor, I move consent agenda resolutions 294-2013 to resolution 300-2013.
I second.
Discussion or any resolutions that need to be pulled? Rob?
On resolution 299, authorizing the establishment of a trust fund account for the community gardens, what money will be held in there?
I think that's
the plot rentals
the plot
rental fees.
Just the plot rentals and...
That's it, the plot rental fees.
Okay.
That's it.
And then that's in turn plowed back, or it's paid back to the?
We needed to have well, there's two things that happen with it. One is for their routine operating expenses,
Yeah,
when they need
water,
to sharpen the mower,
yeah.
or do something with the landscaping, and then the remainder is to reimburse the initial $40,000
Right.
investment to create the community garden.
Fair enough. So we're going into the third year of it, and the money prior to this has just gone back?
It's gone into a general fund.
To
This
general
is
fund.
now going to a dedicated pot.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Or? All right. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Catalonello?
Yes?
Mr. Landrigan?
Yes.
Mrs. Vitale?
Yes.
Ms. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Wolkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Rebholz?
Yes.
There is no unfinished business. Approval of vouchers.
Okay, vouchers. Public safety, $25,420.90. Health and public assistance, $3,106.81. Public works and engineering, $90,308.91. Community affairs, $21,206.48. Finance and borough clerk, $476,206.37. And utilities, $1,197,193.19. Total is $1,813,442.66.
Mayor, I move approval of the vouchers.
Second?
Discussion. Roll call vote.
Mr. Catalonello?
Yes?
Mr. Landrigan?
Yes.
Mrs. Vitale?
Yes.
Ms. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Wolkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Rebholz?
Yes.
There is no new business, so Mr. Rebholz.
Mr. Mayor, I move to join this evening's meeting.
Second. All right, thank you all.
Right? You got the thing up for the Lincoln.
Yep.
Thank you for our, the road.
That's when you got.
Yeah, the road.
What do you think? They look nice, I'm just not sure.
Good.
Yeah. I think we have to take the last row.